This is the CNC Geekcast, the podcast where two guys with speech impediments talk about movies. I'm Joseph Collins.
And I'm Paul Combs.
On today's episode, we'll be talking about Kong, Skull Island. We're going to be talking about the plot, the characters, Monster Universe, and why Paul loved it and I didn't. So stay tuned.
You know, it really surprised me that you didn't enjoy this film when you told me that the other day. Because a couple of weeks ago, we had decided this was going to be an episode we were doing. So I was like, Joseph, you need to watch this film. Mm-hmm. And everything, I was like, Joseph's probably going to love this too. We're just going to talk about how great it was. And he told me, he's like, it bored me.
Yes.
I was like, what?
Yes, it was very boring. I felt that the plot was boring and that the characters were boring.
I know, it's just...
Except for one character. One character was not boring, but we'll get into that later.
It's just on paper, everything about it you would think you would enjoy. Mm-hmm. Here you have this set Vietnam, all these great actors and actresses, Brie Larson, Samuel L. Jackson, Tom Hiddleston, all these great actors. I thought you would enjoy the crap out of it. How is it the plot bored you so much?
Well, to be fair, it's very difficult for me because the first couple parts of the movie, I didn't mind. The setups of the characters were good. That's the thing. The setups were really good. The idea of there being a monster cinema universe was really good. I like the idea there's a prequel to Godzilla. And that they'll mention John Goodman's character sat there and said, there were monsters, let's go to this island, we gotta discover stuff. All that setup was great. It was when they got onto the island that I had a problem with. Because at that point, we were told that, we just need to get off the island. I'm just like, wait, didn't you come here to do stuff? Well, yeah, but of course all equipment was in the helicopters and they all got destroyed. And I'm like, well, again, was it going to do anything? No, it's going to get off the island. Oh, okay, one of those storylines, plot lines. Yeah, I've seen those, been there, done that. It's called Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park The Lost Road. Seen it.
You just don't like the plot where it just get from place A to place B?
Exactly. I mean, it's Jurassic Park and The Lost Road. That's what they happened. I mean, have you seen that movie, Jurassic Park?
No, I've seen them. I've seen them.
Oh, both of them? Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, you have this team of survey on both sides going on the island. One is surveying the dinosaurs, one is capturing the dinosaurs. They lose all the equipment and they're trying to get off. I've seen this movie before.
But that doesn't bother me. A lot of times, a lot of movies, by the time you break them down to their base elements, they're incredibly simple. Yeah. Mad Max Fury Road, Die Hard. So many other movies have these incredibly simple plots when you break them down to their base elements. And that really doesn't bother me. Yeah, it wasn't anything complex. Yeah, it can be summed up in a couple of sentences, but I don't have an issue with that.
Well, I think my issue is that I wanted more out of it. I was expecting John Goodman's character or them to find something or some kind of element in this film that connects with Godzilla other than, we mentioned the monster in it. Because at the end of this film, when all the survivors got off, you have the photographer woman that took all these pictures, but at the end, they were talking about how, people can't find out, but they can't know about this island, and she said, well, they're not going to learn about it from us. I'm like, what? Then what's the point of this entire venture?
I agree with you on that. I will admit that one. Well, the reason I thought they brought the war photographer along in the movie, the reason I thought she was there was to kind of show evidence of the end of the film that monsters exist.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I will agree with you on that one. It does kind of make me question how they're going to set everything up and make it where Kong and Godzilla fight in the next film.
Exactly. And I can honestly, I mean, it being a prequel, the movie was set up in after the Vietnam War. What was your thoughts on that before we...
I thought that was really clever, though. Mm-hmm. Because the Vietnam War is famously the war that we just pulled out of. Yeah. We didn't really win. We didn't really lose. We pulled everything out at a certain
we just
point.
quit.
And that kind of made sense with Samuel L. Jackson's character. And it made sense with the kind of the point the movie was trying to make. That this is a character that pulled out of the Vietnam War. He wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
He's a soldier. So he had to create this enemy. So he goes to this island. John Goodman's goal is to use these depth charges, basically the explosions, to draw Kong out. Yeah. And the plan works to perfection. Kong gets woke up and Kong goes off like an ape.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense. That scene worked. It gave Samuel L. Jackson... He did a very good performance. I enjoyed his performance.
But I think another issue I had with this film is Kong was the good guy. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my main issue with the film, because Samuel L. Jackson said we need to find a bad guy. He found his bad guy, but because the Kong was a good guy, I'm like, I'm supposed to root for Kong. I don't feel Samuel L. Jackson's motivation. I think is my problem. I don't relate to it at all.
I mean, I did.
That's my issue.
And I think that worked for me because the movie actually says it a couple times, like kind of the point of the film. There's one character that actually says, sometimes there isn't an enemy other than the ones we create.
Yes, which is again goes back to hitting it over the head to.
Yeah, I mean, I hated the line in that it kind of told us the point of the movie. Mm-hmm. A lot of movies like to do this. They like to hold your hand through the meadow and guide you as if you're not smart enough to figure out the entire point of the movie. Hell or High Water did this a couple weeks ago, and I also went off about it.
Yeah.
Don't treat me like I'm a moron, filmmakers. Just please don't respect me. I just want your respect.
Yes, but I do think that having Kong being the good guy, I think kind of was the issue. I think that if they went more of a neutral path, I think I could, like I said, I could be easy. It would be easy for me to relate to Samuel Jackson's character, or at least, I mean, because I didn't. Yes, I got the idea. He's looking for a bad guy, but at the same time, I'm like, but Kong's not really a threat to anybody at all at that point. Mm. I mean, he's not really, like I said, he's not a bad guy. He's a good guy. So it's like you're looking for a bad guy, but really you're finding a good guy, and I don't know.
I think that was the point, though. It was supposed to be like misunderstood.
Well, no, I know, I understand it was the point, but I think that was my main problem is I couldn't connect with Samuel Jackson's character at that point.
Okay, I think in essence, though, the true villain was actually John Goodman.
That's another issue I have with this film. Yeah, he is the true villain, but at the same time, it's understandable what he did. I mean, he's trying to prove to the world. I don't know. I don't think he was the true villain, though.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe,
because he's trying to prove to the world that monsters exist. That's his entire thing.
Yeah, but he did it by choosing to withhold information. He did not tell anybody the extent of their plan, and in doing so, he got like 80% of the people in this movie killed.
He did, but at the same time, would you believe somebody said, "Oh, I believe there's a monster over there"? It's like, "Oh, you're off the rocker then." No, he had to hide it because no one would believe him. But I do agree, it's like, hey, he got all these people killed, but at the same time, he's trying to warn people that monsters exist. But my issue is that he got killed off. It's like after the entire scene of him being revealed that he lied, he just died. That's it. I mean, it's like he was the one who set the whole thing in motion. We're gonna go to this island. We're gonna find stuff, or at least have him find something or bring something back. I don't know. I just feel like the plot was. It wasn't. There was no reward. I think that was the thing. It was like there was no reward at the end of it for me as a filmer, as an audience member.
The reward is that we're going to say King Kong versus Godzilla. That's a reward to me. I can't wait to see that movie.
I understand you're really excited about it. I do. But for me, it's like I wish that they did a better job, I guess, connecting the universes, like what they do in the Marvel movies. It's like that they, that in, for example, Doctor Strange, you found another Infinity Stone. You probably didn't know it at the time, but it was another Infinity Stone, and it was connected to the next film. Or that Guardians of the Galaxy explained what the Infinity Stones were. But no one else in the Marvel Universe, like Iron Man or Thor, knew about. Well, Thor knew about it. I'm assuming he does. No one else knew except for the Guardians of the Galaxy. And to them, it's just another day thing. To someone like Captain America, it's like, oh my goodness, it's spectacular stuff. But for the Guardians of the Galaxy, just Infinity Stones, whatever. So it's a common knowledge at that point. Something like that would have been nice, I guess, is my point.
No, I do get what you're saying. What did you think of the characters in this film, though?
What characters?
What do you mean, what characters? You had not Benedict Cumberbatch, though. The other good-looking English dude, Tom Hiddleston.
Okay, I don't remember his character.
You had Brie Larson. You had
still don't remember the characters.
All these soldiers that didn't really have a name.
No, exactly. No names, no personalities, no backstories. The only one that I actually cared about was the World War II vet.
Oh yeah, John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly was by far the best part of this film. Now I'm actually going to go off on a little rant here for a second. Okay. One of the things that bothers me about a lot of trailers these days is they just give away way too much information. Like with The Last Jedi, that's going to be the movie event of 2017. I made the decision that I'm not going to watch any more trailers. I don't want any more given away.
Yeah.
One of the things that bothered me with the Kong Skull Island trailer was the fact that they gave away the fact that John C. Reilly existed.
Yeah. I
think it would have been a lot better had we just been watching the film and all of a sudden there's John C. Reilly.
Yeah, I think it would have been better too. Like, I mean, he just comes up
kind of like with Matt Damon in Interstellar. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen Interstellar, but I knew he existed because I saw like a couple scenes here and there, like just I don't know, watching it just randomly. But at the same time, it's like I feel like there's not enough these characters didn't have any backstory. I couldn't relate to any of them, and they were just so paper thin. I mean, it felt like, who was that character you talked about? The English actor?
Tom Hiddleston?
Yeah, the only thing I knew about him is like, his father died, okay?
Well, he is the owner of one of the dumbest action scenes I've ever seen.
Oh, is he? Why is that?
Yeah, you remember this scene of this movie? I literally started laughing in the theater.
Okay.
He has this gas mask on, and
Yeah.
there's this green gas floating around.
Yeah.
And he has this sword, and he's swinging it. He's just knocking all these birds out of the air.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and another thing that bothered me about this film, and other than the action film, was that prior to this film, they were looking for a specific character, okay? They were attacked by the skull crushers, or skull chasers.
Skull crawlers.
Skull crawlers. And some so-and-so's character found the dog tags of the guy they're looking for, and he doesn't show it to them until after they go into this graveyard where the skull crawlers are. You would think that he would be like, oh, by the way, this person you're looking for, he died back there. Let's not go down there. No, they went down there. Why? Because they had to kill off all these other characters.
Well, they had to do that for the plot.
I see, but that's my problem with it. It's like the plot to. I mean,
No, I agree with you. I just had fun with this movie. Yes, the characters were cardboard cutouts. Mm-hmm. Yes, the plot was kind of dumb. That didn't bother me. I just had fun with this movie. Like the helicopter sequence.
Yeah.
That sold it for me. The helicopter sequence was... The way everything was filmed, it was beautiful. It was fantastic. It was awesome.
Yes, the helicopter scene. I understand that, and I have another issue with this film. The helicopter scene, I completely understand that because you needed a reason why Samuel L. Jackson wanted to kill Kong. He killed all these soldiers. He killed his men. He wanted to kill Kong. I get that. But at the same time, I didn't like the gore in this film. All these characters, these nameless characters, are dying in horrific ways, and there's no payoff. There's really nothing there.
But isn't that kind of what happens in war, though? Is people just die sometimes? Like that's kind of the point of the film. They set this up to be more of a war film than a monster film.
I do agree with that, but at the same time, the problem is that when people die, it's horrific because life is, we don't like war because we hold to the view that life is meaningful, that life is precious, that you only get one of these lives, and that you shouldn't, we should treat it with respect and dignity. That's why a lot of people are anti-war. During the Vietnam War, people were dying left and right. You were sending these young men off to war, and a lot of them were coming back dead. So in this film, I just didn't feel that weight when it comes to people.
That's the kind of point. That's the point it was trying to make. That was kind of the point it was trying to make for me, and it actually did. It's just how senseless death is sometimes, and the fact that you can't ascribe more meaning to death all the time.
I don't know. I disagree. I felt like the death. When you have so many people dying, it just feels like it's no longer, there's no weight because when I watch a Star Trek Next Generation episode, in a couple of episodes, a lot of crewmen died. And the reason why crewmen died was to show the rate of the situation that the Enterprise crew was in. That, those are threat. If one person can die, how many more could die? Mm-hmm. I get that. I understand. So that ups the ante and that increases the rate. But when you have so many people dying, it pretty much just makes the entire weight of the situation meaningless.
It's like inflation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like with the economy, if you pump too much money into it, each dollar loses value.
Yeah, so each death, because of so much death, this loses this value. Therefore, the tension goes down and down and down because it's like, all these people are dying. Okay, fine, whatever. Who's up next, kind of thing. And I don't like that. That's the thing I liked about Jurassic Park was you had people dying, but you cared about these characters. It was more of a character-driven film, and you didn't have that many people die. They were trying to get off the island, and because you had all these people, you didn't want these people to die. It was more. It had more weight to it. So that's another thing I didn't like about the film was that there's too much gruesome death.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think it worked in. I also think it worked in showing how dangerous the island was. Like you have that bamboo spider monster that just randomly appears.
Yeah.
And then you have all these other monsters that are just.
But at the same time, the problem I have with that is like we said that the photograph lady said, well, no one's gonna learn about it from us. It's like, why show the island so dangerous if there's no threat to everybody else? I mean, I just feel like, okay, it's gonna be hidden. Okay, fine. People now say, I mean, it felt so that there's not that much of a payoff for me. It's like, it was fun to see these monsters crawl, but you know what would have been more fun?
What?
To have the two characters in the beginning of the film. You had the World War II pilot and the Japanese pilot. Them trying to survive on the island.
Yeah,
that would have been better.
Them overcoming the differences they were kind of forced to have.
Yeah.
Finding their similarities and learning how to survive on the island.
Exactly.
Actually, I agree with you on that. Just because John C. Reilly was by far the best part of the film.
Yeah, I mean, his character was the most, and he also was the most developed character because of the fact that he said, "Oh, he was my friend." He actually took the samurai sword and honored his friend by using it the correct way and using it. And he said, "Oh, well, me and the so and so built it, so they did overcome their differences." That would have been a lot better because you look at the prejudice you had back in World War II. You had American propaganda making the Japanese soldiers to look like the terrible people. You had Japanese propaganda look like American soldiers look terrible. So you had that prejudice already. And so when you have a film sitting here, and you have these two guys stuck on an island together, they have to learn to deliver their differences, and then they may come across the Skull Crushers, and you see all these big islands of Kong people, or Kong apes, and then they do something to set off the events of the Skull Crushers come, and they feel guilty, and they're trying to work together to help defeat the Skull Crushers. I think that would have been better.
No, I agree. I would love to see that story. I would.
I mean, I think it would have been better because it would have been a better a better prequel to Godzilla, because at that point, people don't know that the monsters exist except for that character. So you can watch that movie and then watch Godzilla, or maybe maybe during the film, at the end of the film, they get off the island. Like at one point during the film, maybe the beginning of the film, maybe the first 2/4 of the film, or maybe 1/4 of the film could be that story, and then the people come in, they get the person out, and they discover those more monsters, and that leads into the next. I think that would have been better.
No, I agree with you in that I'm not sure how they're going to set up Godzilla, since they kind of killed the most obvious way to do that at the end of this film.
Yeah.
Were there any scenes in the film that you did enjoy, though?
I think the scene that I enjoyed the most was the ending scene of the film, where the World War II pilot. There's a part in the movie where they're getting on the boat that him and his Japanese friend built, and he talked about his wife. Well, I had to go before I shipped off, and she's probably dead by now, or maybe she's moved on with her life, and I would love to see my son again, but. And then the character said, maybe you see her again, maybe we connected, and he said, no, she moved on by now, and I don't expect him to, have been waiting for me, and the son didn't know he lived, and so at the end of the film, when he survived, he was in a taxi, he got out of the house, he went to the address, he was all dressed up in his army gear, and when he walked up, the son opened the door, didn't recognize him. And then the wife comes up and recognizes him instantly. And I love that scene because of the fact that, yes, they got reacquainted, but he didn't expect anything other than just, please, let me see you. That's all I want. I will walk away if you don't want me in your life. I'm willing to walk away. I just want to see you. And there was no resentment toward it because he got stuck on an island. It was not his fault. And there was no resentment. It's not like he walked away from his responsibility. He had no choice. And he actually was like sitting there and was willing to walk away. I love that. And, I love the idea that, people see loved ones again and the son can actually see his father for the first time. That was the best part of the film. I just wish the other part, for me, was just as good.
But I can see why that's your favorite part. That is so character focused in that this character has
depth.
The end of a character's arc.
Yeah. I mean, it was the only character I felt like had an arc in the film. At that point, I think when John Goodman died, I tapped out. To be honest, I was on the brink of tapping out. But then once he characterized, I was like, you just killed off the character that put everything in motion. We're not gonna learn anything else.
And he didn't really get an arc.
No, he didn't get an arc. He was the connection. That's my problem. He was the connection between Godzilla and King Kong, and they just killed him off.
So, how do you think he connected Godzilla? Do you think that what attacked his ship was Godzilla?
Yeah, in the beginning of the film, he said that during this period of time, the U.S. military was nuking a part of the ocean. In Godzilla, you saw a scene in the beginning of the film where they're like, "Oh, they don't, it was." Do you think that they were just testing nuclear weapons? They were not. They're trying to kill something, and that nuclear weapon made Godzilla stronger. Well, Godzilla is a lizard, of course. A giant lizard. He attacked a ship in Godzilla, and so John Goodman's character was on that ship. So he knew that monsters exist, but no one believed him. And so he was that connection to this cinema universe. And once they killed him off, you're like, well, there goes the connection, so why should I care? about this universe. You just killed off. I mean, not about the universe, but why should I care now? You killed off somebody who could, give us more insight. The one who knows more about this than anybody else, and he's now gone. I'm like, okay, I see how it is. So I mean, I don't like that from a narrative standpoint, from a story standpoint.
Well, you don't think his partner, the young black gentleman, could be that link since they were walking in tandem?
He probably could be that link, but I wish that they got something off the island. I wish they found something on the island that connected the two more, or that showed us that, something more. I wanted his character, or John Goodman's character, to give us more than he did, I guess is my point.
No, I get it, and I definitely get your issue with the characters too. No character other than the World War II vet, John C. Reilly, had an arc. Yeah. None of them did. They were each in the exact same place they started.
Yeah.
They went through some trauma, but they were still, in essence, the same characters.
Yeah, and if there is no drama, if there is nothing to grab me onto, why should I care whether they get off the island or not? And that's the thing, I don't care.
Well, it was just fun for me, though. I mean, I just had fun watching the film. As I said, I will agree with you on a lot of the issues. Yeah, the characters were cardboard cutouts. Yeah, they didn't have arcs. Yeah, the plot was simple. But I just had fun watching it.
I understand that you talked about how your favorite scene at the end of the movie was Kong and the big guy.
Yeah, Kong and that skull crusher, and Kong uses that anchor, that ship's anchor, as like a nunchuck. Yeah, and that scene was just awesome. I was like cheering Kong on. It was great.
Yeah, I felt the complete opposite, to be honest.
I mean, it made us be.
You just love big monsters versus big monsters. I just love
big monsters versus big monsters. Same with Pacific Rim.
No, it's not that I don't like the idea of big monsters versus big monsters. I just wish there was, like I said, there was more character there for me to grab onto. And I it's like I couldn't relate to it's difficult for me to relate to an animal compared to people. Mm-hmm. Because I'm supposed to relate to Kong. I'm like, okay, that's great. And then man, I'm like, but I couldn't relate to the people. That kind of my issue was the film. It's like Kong itself didn't have a big enough character for me to relate to. And even though that he's trying to show that, man's the enemy, at the same time, it's like, and Kong is still the big bad guy. It's like, or the big, not big bad guy, but in the sense of that he owns everything. I don't know. You can still have that while at the same time, balancing out. It's hard for me to. I mean, I've expressed everything I don't like about this film. So
you really have. You've kind of hammered this film.
I have. I just didn't. I mean, to finish it off, there was a scene where one of the characters, one of the soldiers, the one that was very mellow, kept on making all these statements, and one of the guys kept on saying, "Do you even know what you're saying?" And there's one point he decided they were running away from the giant skull crusher, so he decided to stop and sacrifice himself and say to this kid, "Go live your life." He gets 2 grenades, he stands before the skull crusher. I'm like, okay, he's about to do something heroic, and the skull crusher just takes us down and whips him in the side of a mountain. He explodes.
Actually, I love that scene.
Why?
Because it subverts expectations.
You see, the problem I have with that is that I get the idea of doing exactly that, but if there is no purpose to it, it feels like it's just you're doing it just for the sake of doing it.
Well, it walked in showing us how ferocious that giant skull crawler is.
Well, we already know how ferocious these guys are. The raptors, from the raptors or the aliens. I don't need to see a person get ripped around, to know that. We already know how dangerous this island is because all these other people died. It felt like the rise, like, okay, well, now we gotta get this. Now we gotta kill off this person. How do we do it? Oh, let's do it that way. Boom, he's gone. Doesn't do anything heroic.
He died with heroic intent. But that's gotta count for something.
No. I mean, if you're gonna die heroically, have him die heroically. Have him do something heroic, like maybe slow down the alien, or maybe his sacrifice causes a weakness in the animal that Kong later on sees and notices, and then takes advantage of, and because of his sacrifice, Kong could have defeated him. Something like that. That would have been heroic, and the death would have served the purpose with the plot. So he could have helped Kong save the day. Instead, just ripped in the side of the mountain. Why?
I loved it. I started laughing. I don't know.
I know. You start laughing, but I'm like, have a purpose. Let these deaths mean something. That's my issue.
No, I do understand what you're saying. I mean, obviously we disagree a lot on this film.
We do, but we can't continue to talk about it, can we?
No, we can't. But actually I have one question for you. It's only tangentially related to this film.
Okay.
Did you see the director go off on Twitter on CinemaSins?
I saw a couple of things that he posted, yeah.
What did you think about that? Did you think he was just being a baby, or did you think he had some valid points?
I think that the director had a lot of valid points, because the problem I have when we have people on the internet talking about movie directors is like they're pointing out all these things that movie directors didn't do, like people attacking The Hobbit for not doing the right things. I'm like, well, time out. Okay, I understand, but let's make one thing clear. When it comes to movies, they're all rules, but it's like music. They're all grounding rules, but you can go off in different directions. You can do different things, and some things will work differently than others. And the director does, for the most part, understand filmmaking. I don't like when amateur people make all this criticism as if their word is the final word. It's like, well, I learned this online, and therefore, no one else can be wrong. This is the absolute thing, and
you think that's what CinemaSins does? Acts like they're the de facto leaders of filmmaking or de facto geniuses of filmmaking?
I think that most people on YouTube do that. And look. I don't try to do the same thing, because when I criticize a film, I try to make sure that my criticism is fair. If my criticism is something along the lines of, if they can't do that, if it's not possible, then I feel like my criticism is unjust. If you're going to talk about a film, make sure that it's just. And I feel like a lot of these things are. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people think that they are the know-it-alls because they've learned it, and because they didn't see it on the film, therefore the film did something wrong. Or because it didn't make them feel an emotional attachment, they did something wrong. Or because, The Hobbit was 3 movies that somehow damaged the characters. Like, how can making 3 films damage a character? One more film means more opportunities to expand the characters. So, I think both parties had legitimate beefs with one another. I don't think CinemaSins was 100% right. I think they were right in some areas, and the director, same thing. What about you?
I just have an issue with how big CinemaSins has gotten. Do you know how long the episodes was on Kong Skull Island?
No.
It was like 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Well, they were just pointing out individual sins. A lot of times, in order to do that, they will ignore context.
Yeah.
Or just come up with these bullcrap things that aren't even accurate.
Yeah.
Like, for example, at one point in the video, I watched this. CinemaSins complains about the amount of rain in the film, because when setups, there was like 3 scenes with rain. Mm-hmm. And then the CinemaSins says something about there being so many scenes with rain. Well, that was the last scene with rain. There was only like those 3 scenes that had rain in them. Mm-hmm. So they ignored the context of the movie to make some cheap point.
Yeah, I think that at that point, I feel like CinemaSins sometimes do things for comedic effect.
And I think the issue comes, it's like when you argue in bad faith.
Yeah.
They're nitpicking, but they're not doing so in bad faith. They're not doing so like, okay, I think this could be better. They're doing so in order to score a cheap hit.
Yeah, or maybe because it's like, well, we gotta make 20 minutes. We gotta
exactly. Like if it was like the old videos. Actually, I love CinemaSins old videos. They were less than 5 minutes long when they first started out, and they would bring some legitimate potholes. They would acknowledge the context of the scene and be like, wait, didn't you say this earlier? And I'm like, wait, that's actually a good point.
Yeah.
But now when you're opening it scene by scene by scene, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I saw The Hobbit. I mean, that's my issue with people. And the Hobbit films, I acknowledge the Hobbit films is not as good as the Lord of the Rings will never be as good, and I acknowledge there's some issues with them, but I think that the hate for the films, they don't deserve the hate that they're receiving. I think the films are better than people give them credit for, and to compare these films to the prequels simply because they use a lot of CGI, I find that to be a cheap, completely cheap and unjust reason to say these films are bad.
Yeah.
The Hobbit films, yes, we can talk about them. At the same time, I feel like there's a lot of redeeming factors to the Hobbit film. I think that if you can just, forgive them for those things, the films are enjoyable for the most part, and we can talk about it later on. But I don't like I said, I go back to the idea that people on YouTube, they're not these experts. They're criticizing the professionals.
Well, yeah, we do a movie critics show. I can't hate on critics because we are one.
Yeah.
But our difference is the way we approach things. Mm-hmm. I go in every movie wanting to enjoy the movie. Yeah. I don't go in with a cynical standpoint of... It's like they get enjoyment out of hating the film.
Yeah, or they get offended because the film was bad.
Yeah.
And they feel like they have the right to dump on because I was offended or something. I don't know about...
you didn't enjoy Kong Skull Island, but here we're not going to say you shouldn't watch it. We're not going to say it was the worst film ever.
No, I mean, if you enjoy it, you enjoy it.
With the intent to enjoy it.
Yeah, I did. It's like, and I was enjoying it up to a point, and then I'm just telling you how I felt after the film. That's it. We don't go into, we enjoy films, and the reason why we criticize them because we want films to be better. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. We want good films. This is a passion of ours, and we just want we want the best for us and our fellow audience members, and we want the best for the film directors, because we know the film directors can accomplish all these things, and you can always improve your craft. And that's I think what critics should do. It's not, you shouldn't approach criticism in the sense of cynical. It should be like always constructive criticism. Help people improve their craft.
It's all about good faith versus bad faith.
Yes.
Like, go in a movie with good faith. Go in the movie with you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. With the intent of knowing that the filmmakers are doing, a lot of filmmakers are trying their best to produce their vision and to put their vision on film. And when someone like Edgar Wright does it, we appreciate them for it and we praise them for it. When someone doesn't do it right, you look at it saying, like, what went wrong? And if there's somebody who just didn't care, then I shouldn't care. Kind of thing, yeah.
I was just wondering your thoughts on it, because I saw a lot of other people on Twitter decrying the director, saying he was just being salty for going off on CinemaSins. And well, I saw it and I was like, dang, he brought some good points. And I love movie review channels. That's or movie criticism channels. That's how I've learned a lot about movies in the past year. We're watching a lot of movies and going to a lot of these channels. But CinemaSins has gotten to the point where they're one of my least favorite. And I think the director did a good job saying why.
Well, because of the fact you learn so much about movies, you can see both arguments and say, okay, yes, the director makes very good points when it comes to the overall rule of filmmaking. Now, he may not have executed it as well, and same thing with Peter Jackson. They may not have executed it well with The Hobbit, but they understand how films should be. They may not have gotten it right, but at least they tried. At least they know how to do it. That's my point. And execution may have been poor, but they're not ignorant in it. And I hate when people talk about film, like people like Peter Jackson, if somehow they're ignorant when it comes to filmmaking. They're not. They just didn't know how. There was poor execution. I mean, even the best professionals. It goes back to the Mighty Casey and how he was the greatest hitter of all time. But even Mighty Casey struck out. So everybody, even the professionals, will strike out once in a while. So it's not something. No one's perfect. Is really the point. And these people on YouTube, they're not. If they try to make a film, they're not going to be perfect either. So
well, I think we did a good job talking about Kong Skull Island and CinemaSins. Yeah. Why don't you tell our audience what we're going to be talking about next week?
Well, Paul mentioned in our Scott Pilgrim episode about how so far we've talked about two of his favorite films. We haven't talked about one of my favorite films. Well, next week we are. My favorite Pixar film is Inside Out. I love the idea of emotions and how emotions play a big role in our lives and how, we'll get into that later on in the next episode, but I'm really looking forward to talking about it.
And I'm looking forward to talk about how the film makes me cry like a little baby.
Well, but it is an emotional film.
Shut up.
Anyway, in the meantime, I'm Joseph Collins.
And I'm Paul Combs.
And you've been listening to the CNC Geekcast.